So hello, my name is Vince Jerson Edudanano. Good morning or good day. So the first step on assembling a system unit is to procure parts or slash procuring parts. So you might ask, what is procuring parts? So procuring parts is you will have to be ready for the parts, or the parts will be ready for assembly. So if you don't have a parts, you can just buy, and you don't have to worry about the different types of parts because it is all built in one, which is a bare bone, so you can just buy it. It's usually cost around 100 pesos or $200. So that is step 1.
Step 2. Gather tools and supplies. Gather the tools you will need for the project. Screwdriver for slotted and Phillips head screws, wire cutters and strippers, needle nose pliers, utility knife, small flashlight, adjustable wrench, small container to hold screws, heatsink compound, and grounding strap. You may not use every single one of these tools in every installation, but it is best to have all of them on hand in case you have a use for them. Step 3. Open the case. Open the computer case by removing the side panels. Find the screws that hold the side panels in place and remove them. The panel is removed by sliding it back, then lifting it away from the case.
Step 4. Prepare the case for assembly. There are 3 things that are needed to be done before assembly begins. First, remove any parts or packaging that may have been shipped inside the package. Second, remove the cover for the optical drive. On our case, we will be removing the cover of the highest drive bay to mount our DVD drive. Do this by pressing on the retaining tabs. Third, make note of the cables pre-installed in the case. These should be the front panel connections for features such as the power switch, audio jacks, and USB ports. If they are not labeled, consult the manufacturer's documentations and label them yourself now before the parts are installed in the case.
Step 5. Ground yourself. Put the grounding strap on your wrist and connect the other end to the computer case. This will prevent any buildup of static electricity on your body from damaging the computer components.
Step 6. Install the motherboard. The motherboard is the main printed circuit board in a computer through which all components and external peripherals connect. These are the steps to install the motherboard. Step 1. Prepare the tools for installation. Step 2. Measure where the motherboard goes. Step 3. Install the I/O bezel plate into the opening in the back of the case. It pushes in from the inside. Step 4. Install the standoffs in the case. Step 5. Check the screw hole locations on the motherboard for exact placement. Step 6. Lower the motherboard into the case and align with the I/O bezel. Lastly, Step 7. Install the screws. To prevent damage to the motherboard, it must only contact the standoffs and the screws. All the standoffs and screws must be installed.
Step 7. Install the hard drive. The hard drive is the device that stores all of your data. It is 3.5 inches wide and needs to be mounted so that you can gain access to the cable connections on the back. If that is not possible, you may need to connect cables before you install the drive. To mount the drive, you must find a 3.5 inches drive bay to install the drive in. If you have trouble finding a place to mount the drive, consult your case documentation for your suggestions. Slide the drive into the place until the screw holes on the side are lined up with the holes in the case. After that, install the screws. Next is step 8. Install the optical drive. The optical drive is 5.25 inches wide and is installed in the drive bay that we removed the cover from in a previous step. Cable access considerations apply to this drive also. To install the drive, slide the drive into the drive bay until the screws holes are lined up and the front of the drive is flush with the front of the case. Make sure that it's oriented correctly before you install the screws.
Step 9. Install the CPU. The CPU is the brain of the computer. It is installed on the motherboard in the socket. To install the CPU, find the corner marking that designates pin 1 of the CPU, and consult the manufacturer's documentation for specific information about your processor. Lift the small metal rod next to the socket and find the corresponding marking of the CPU socket and insert the CPU so that the markings are lined up. Push the rod down to lock the processor in place. And the CPU function is the computer's brain. It processes data, executes tasks, and manages the flows of instruction, making everything on your computer. Step 10. Install the RAM. RAM is the temporary memory location that the processor works from. Permanently stored data is pulled from this and stored in RAM, while the processor works with it. The memory is easy to install. Set the RAM board in the socket and check to see that the notch in the board is in the correct location. If it is not, turn it around 180 degrees and press firmly on both ends of the board to sit into the socket. Make sure the tabs lock into place. The function for RAM is storing the data for quick access, making your computer run faster and handle multiple tasks simultaneously. It is essential for efficient program execution and better performance.
The CPU fan is a fan on top of a computer processor. It helps pull and blow hot air off the processor, keeping it cooler. To install the fan, place thermal compound to the CPU following instructions provided with the compound. Set the fan assembly on the CPU with mounting tabs aligned. Pull the locking rod down on the fan assembly to lock onto place. Connect the fan assembly's power connector to the motherboard.
Step 12. Install case fan. So what is a case fan? Case fan is an electric fan that blows hot air out of a computer case. The case fan is usually installed in the back panel of the case. If the fan mount is not obvious, consult the case documentation. There are 2 steps how to install a case fan. Step 1. Find a spare fan slot on your PC. Step 2. With one hand, position the fan so that it's both facing the desired direction, so that the screw holes line up with the holes in the case.
The 13th step is to install the power supply. So you might ask, what is the power supply? Is this the big rectangle shape? So it is located at the right or the left top of the case, which is the system unit. So you will have to insert the screws and tighten. So there is 4 screws that you will have to tighten. And so that is the 13th step.
Step 14. Connect cables. With all the components installed in the case, the jungle of wires can be daunting. It is important to consult the motherboard manual in order to make sure proper connections are made. It is important to connect cables so that we can connect several devices inside or outside the computer. Make sure to connect cables correctly so you cannot damage components and cause bodily injury to the computer system. Step 15. Wrap up. Now that the components are completely installed, the last thing to do is to reinstall the side panels on the case. The computer is now ready to be turned on and to have software loaded on it. If the computer has problems starting up, check all the components connections and mounting to make sure that you have hooked everything up correctly. Consult individual component manuals for specific troubleshooting information if problems persist.
That's all. Thank you.